Flex your business with an American Express Business Gold Card. You'll earn 4 times membership rewards points on your top 2 eligible spending categories, like transit and electronics, each month, on up to $150K in combined purchases per year. Plus, you can now earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold, built for business by American Express.
This is the Michael K. Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
And a good afternoon, everybody. This is indeed the Michael K. Show. We thank you for joining us on this Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. What a show. What a show we have planned. Coming up in about 8 minutes, Dan Batard is going to talk about the situation with Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat and Pat Riley. So we love talking to Dan. That'll happen shortly. Then Ian Begley will break down the Knicks situation, where they are, what they need, if they'll stand pat. And then Jeff Passan joins us at 2 o'clock, and we'll break down the entire Pete Alonso saga with the Mets and the outside person being the Toronto Blue Jays, whether or not he decides to go there. Let's start with the Knicks, everybody. That was an impressive win last night, 143-106 against the Grizzlies. And why that's an important win is that the Grizzlies came in with a 6-game winning streak, and the Grizzlies were one of the top 3 teams in the Western Conference. And why that's important is that the Knicks had not beaten a team that was in the top 3 of their conference all year. They're 0-1 against the Celtics, 0-1 against the Cavs, 0-2 against the Thunder, 0-1 against the Rockets, and now they're 1-0 against the Grizzlies. Not only did they beat the Grizzlies, they smacked them around. 26 turnovers the Grizzlies had. The Knicks had 20 steals. Now, why is that significant? It's significant because the Grizzlies came in with the best offense in the NBA. And the Knicks just slapped them around on the court at the world's most famous arena. 83 points in the second half. The Knicks are now 31-16. They're in third place in the East. They're just a game back of the Celtics for second place in the East. So many things they did well. Ja Morant had 10 points on 13 shots in 27 minutes. And you know who shut him down? Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges, it's like something clicked in on that great defensive sequence he had against Trae Young when the Hawks were just in town, where he shut him down, crowd went nuts. And he's not been the same. Now, he'll have moments of glory, obviously, being a good defender. Other times, he got lit up. But since that play, he's been locked down. He's got long arms. He's that sort of player. So to shut down Ja Morant like that, and while doing it, score 28 points, it's pretty good. And the Knicks scoring 143, they've now scored 140 points in 2 straight games. First time since 1965, 66, when I was 4 or 5, that they've done that. Think about it. It's a long time coming. Brunson, 20 points, just 25 minutes. So the minutes police have nothing to say about this. Nothing. It was such a blowout that Thibodeau could go to his bench. Cat, 24 points, 11 rebounds, 33 minutes. Most importantly, he hit 2 3-pointers and 4 tries. With the bad thumb, that's been an issue. That's been a part of his game that's been off. Josh Hart, he played just 26 minutes. Deuce McBride off the bench, 14 points. Precious Achiuwa off the bench, 14 points. Here's the thing that we have to realize about this Knicks team. I know it's a cliche, and I'm sorry, but it's the best way to put it. They can beat anybody on any given day. Anybody. That's how good they are. But the one thing that's a fly in the ointment for the New York Knicks this year is they're not consistent. Maybe that'll come. Remember, they're still a work in progress. You've integrated Bridges in, you've integrated Cat in, and the integration has gone very, very well. But it's still a work in progress. Everybody's finding their role, finding their spot that they want to be, where they're comfortable. Brunson has to know where someone wants the ball. All of that is a work in progress. I know they're more than halfway through. 47 games in to an 82-game season. But as you've seen in the past, Thibodeau teams only get better. And the thing that you look at with this Knicks team, you put them up against the Celtics. You think the Celtics are definitely going to win? No. You put them up against the Cavs. Think the Cavs are definitely going to win that game? No. Thunder? No. Any of the best teams, Knicks could beat them. Now the question is, what Knicks team's going to show up? Because the Knicks are a different team when they don't hit three-pointers, and they're a different team when they don't defend the three that well. We saw that against Minnesota. They were awful. Couldn't defend the three. And I think sometimes when they don't hit the three, they kind of get down in the dumps about playing defense and they don't play with the same energy. The big question with this team, though, can they beat the best teams in the league in a best of 7? Because they're good enough to win a game, as I said, on any given day. But can they win a best of 7 against the Cavs? Can they win a best of 7 against the Celtics? A lot of good teams in the East, by the way. A lot of good teams. And then if they're lucky enough to get to the finals, any of those teams out west, can they beat the Nuggets? Nuggets are coming into town on Wednesday. Going to be interesting. Knicks have a tough stretch now. Nuggets, Wednesday, and then the Lakers on Saturday. Knicks seem more well-rested than they were earlier in the month. They're in the middle of a stretch where they're home all the time. And I think that takes away the fatigue. Now they'll go back on the road. Everything evens out. It's 41-41. That's the way it works. But January has been very, very kind to them in terms of playing games close to home or at home. Haven't been those long flights, anything like that. But this team's exciting. This team is worth rooting for. And to see them put together a game like that against a Grizzlies team, that's good. And the Grizzlies team is the type of team that this year has given the Knicks fits. Long, rangy, young legs. And there's no minutes police when it comes to the Grizzlies. They don't play that much. They almost go 11 deep with their rotation. So it's that fresh leg sort of team, like the Grizzlies, like the Detroit Pistons, that have given the Knicks some fits. And it's not like the Knicks are an all team. They're not. But they do play a lot, and I have no problem with it. I've gone on record of saying that. The fact that they play a lot, they play 35, 36, 37 minutes. They have 3 of the top 6 in terms of minutes played. I'm fine with that. But sometimes it does slow them down in the fourth quarter, where they're not the fresh team. The Grizzlies make their living being the fresh team. They have waves of people coming in and out, so always fresh legs on the court. And that team, with that mindset, is a team that the Knicks ran off the court. Impressive. Revel in that, everybody. Hopefully you don't have Optimum and you actually got to see the game. I didn't. I got to see highlights and things like that. Hopefully that is one day settled. But at least Saturday is on national television. Next Saturday is also on national television. So Saturday against the Lakers and then Saturday against the Celtics will be on ABC. That's awesome. Because I miss watching this team play. This team is a good team. This team's an exciting team to watch play. And they've got all the components there to do well. And I think their bench is getting better. And at some point, somehow, some way, you're going to get Mitchell Robinson back. When's it going to be? I can't tell you. We've heard all different due dates. Maybe the end of January. That's out. Is it going to be February? I have no idea. He's going to have to ramp up pretty quickly once he's able to go out on the court. Hey, as long as he's back for March, I'm cool. Because that's a weapon that the Knicks need. A rim protector that can play obviously play 5, and Cat could slide over to 4. Those are the things that makes a team take the next leap. The Knicks are that good. The only thing that's missing is the bench is not as deep as you'd want it to be because they had to trade some of the bench in order to get Cat and the like. And that's fine because now their starting 5 can match up with anybody. Their bench is not that great, but I think it's a work in progress. You see what Achua can do. You've seen what McBride could do. All of those things are happening. So that was an impressive win last night. If you're a Knicks fan, you should feel very, very good about that. 143-106. We told you we have a great guest list today. Dan Batard, a good friend, obviously with his national talk show. He's going to join us in seconds. And then Ian Begley at 1:30. And at 2 o'clock, Jeff Passan. And I'm told right now by the powers that be that Dan Batard is on the air with us. Hey, Dan, how you doing?
That's a pretty good guest list.
Oh, my goodness. And you're the best one of the three. I'll say that to all three, but since you're on now, I'll tell you.
Yes, that is the kind of artificial fraudulence I've come to expect from my good friend Michael Kay.
That's why you love me, because you know where I'm coming from. I'm so intrigued, Dan, by what's going on in Miami. Pat Riley is a tough dude. And I think, and you could, I want you to dig deep into this. I look at him and I go, in his mind, in his soul, he probably wants to tell Jimmy Butler, you know what? Don't play. Go sit in the corner and rot, and you'll never play again unless you play for us. But that's not the smart way to do business. What is happening down there with Butler and with Riley?
It's unlike anything Pat Riley has ever had in his career. For your old school listeners, the closest thing that you've had to this with the Knicks was maybe him suspending Anthony Mason, and then Anthony Mason ending up showing up in the audience of the Ricky Lake show when he was suspended. It's nothing close to this, where the Miami Heat, since 2010, they have benefited from player empowerment, and the mutation at the end of those 15 years has to be a core offense to the soul of every principle that Pat Riley has ever espoused, as someone who, like Belichick, thinks that he's the reason for the winning. And it's hard to argue, Michael. Like, when he goes to Los Angeles, when he goes to New York, when he goes to Miami, it's hard to always be relevant, and he's always relevant. The last 5 years of Heat basketball with Jimmy Butler were better than I think anybody imagined. So this particular asset and poison, I wouldn't be surprised if he met it with pettiness. The offers aren't going to be that good, so I'd be surprised if he didn't send him somewhere other than Phoenix just to get, just at the end to be petty, even if it's not good business, because the difference between what you'd get from making him happy and not making him happy isn't going to be very much.
Well, what is the complaint, Dan, on Jimmy Butler's side? Because he still has a year next year at over $50 million. So what does he want to have, a long extension at his age?
Well, that's what we're looking at. These things are always over money, right? And so he's got $40 million this year, and he's got an onerous opt-in of $50 million next year. And they have already paid him. They already extended him. But Mike, I understand how this stuff happens, right? I think LeBron James taught even Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, you don't understand how much power you have. It's not the organization, it's you. Now, in Miami, I would say that Jimmy Butler has never been the Jimmy Butler that he was in Miami. One of the greatest upsets in the history of the sport is them taking out Giannis as a 1 seed. So Jimmy Butler has been better here than he's been anywhere, and Pat Riley would say, well, don't I have something to do with that? And Jimmy Butler would say, aren't I underpaid given that I made your franchise matter for the last 5 years? But most people are going to side with you, Mike. Most of the construct, the media, Pat Riley, everything happening in the sport is going to be piling on Jimmy Butler. What do you mean $40 million isn't enough? What do you mean a player option at $50 million next year isn't enough? Why are you holding out now?
It's interesting because I was watching Shaq on the TNT pregame show, and he was defending Butler and said, you know what, if you don't want me, I understand why he's acting that way. And Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley was saying, but he's getting paid. It's incumbent upon him to play the game. So I don't even know where players fall on this, because it almost seems unfair what Butler's doing, trying to talk his way out of town. But I think that what happens, Dan, is that over and over you see Durant, you see Kyrie Irving, you see Harden, they demand to be traded, and they are always given the trade demand that they want, rather than the owner saying, no, we're not trading you. And I think that emboldens the next guy over and over and over again. But it's interesting because you had Pat Riley on your South Beach sessions, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, it almost sounded like maybe it has passed me by. Do you think that he's wondering if this has passed him by?
I think even immortals can do mortal doubt. The entire game has shifted from the way Pat Riley used to play it. Kareem in the post, Patrick Ewing in the post, Alonzo Mourning in the post. We're going to take the most inefficient shot contested because we're going to try and two our way to a game that now has turned to threes. The players have totally changed everything that's happening here. You've got Pat Riley was wounded, Michael, by 2014 by having to go to Las Vegas, show up and with the championship trophies and recruit a player that was already on his team, only to have LeBron James with his guys, watching the World Cup game with their feet up on the coffee table. And he had to ask them to turn the television down because the player had taken over the league. LeBron took the things he needed to learn with him to other places. And so the end of that player empowerment age brings you the irony that they would have gotten Jimmy Butler the help he might have needed if they had gotten Damian Lillard, if Damian Lillard had been willing to do to Portland fans what Jimmy Butler is now doing to Miami fans, which is torch the relationship, make a big public mess so that they have to trade you. It changed with Damian Lillard on Lillard, but now it comes back, and a lot of people are looking at what it is that Barkley and Kenny and Shaq are arguing about. But I would say that Shaq very often, Michael, looks at things through his own prism. Shaq at the end with Pat Riley was locked out of the facility. He had to be escorted out and was not allowed back in. They wouldn't let him go get his stuff in the locker room when he'd been traded, and they didn't want him in the building. And so Shaq is looking at that and being like, well, that's disrespectful. I got you a championship. What do you mean I'm not allowed back into the building? So I think some of Shaq's prism on that one. Not a lot of people are going to be siding with Jimmy Butler on this.
Talking with Dan Batard here on the Michael K. Show. Does Riley have the total support of Mickey Harrison, the owner? Does he have his back totally?
Yes.
He does.
Unequivocally. This is the thing that is not very well known about the Miami Heat, because it serves the Miami Heat to have the mythology of Pat Riley running the organization. Mickey Harrison's son, Nick, who began as a ball boy in the organization, is actually Pat Riley's boss. These decisions get made by 5 people: Eric Spoelstra, Andy Ellisberg, and a 78-year-old Pat Riley with Mickey and his son. If they're not in unison, they vote to see how it ends up 3-2 so that they get in a place of unison. But on this one, they're in unison. Like, this is an insult in the season to all of the things the Miami Heat represent. I say this about the culture there, Michael, this is a strange thing, but this is a military complex for millionaires. They are a science facility that tests the human body with a punishment that creates a cultish attitude of it's very much you're with us or you're on the outside. It's us against everybody. Jimmy Butler is coming to work today, and all days that he's coming to work, with the oppressive heat of nobody in there wants him there anymore. You don't want to be here? You should leave here. But the problem is, they haven't traded him. They're looking for hiccups in practice to suspend him. They're going to make whatever the time is that he's got left here miserable, because what do you think it's like to work for Pat Riley after you've embarrassed him and you still have to go into that military complex for millionaires?
Well, it's interesting, though, in closing, Dan, what you describe, it becomes very strange what type of player is going to want that. I know you've got the lure of South Beach and no state tax in Florida, and a history of winning. But as you said, the players run the show now. And I just see in all sports, you got to be friends with them, not a dictator toward them. So how's it going to play for Miami in the long term to get players to come there?
Dwayne Wade says, get out of here. Anybody will take $300 million to play in Miami. That's Dwayne Wade's appraisal as one of the latest guys to have a bad punctuation here, because there have been an assortment of them. It's rare to get the lovely reception, but this team has traded on this stuff, and they are right now trying to position themselves so that they have the cap space in 2026 to get the next disgruntled guy, whether it's Anthony Edwards or Luka. Anthony Edwards isn't going to be available necessarily in 2026, but who knows with that ownership with A-Rod there. They'll be in position for a whale. They'll want to get a whale. And one of the things that is so, Michael, that's unusual about the Miami Heat, it's hard to have it be a thing that's overt to the eye. Their players very obviously get better on their watch. These are not top first-round picks. Like the Rookie of the Year, Ware is a middle-of-the-round pick, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo. These are not top 5 picks. They're all maxed as overachievers, right? The Heat have done more with players who don't have the ceiling that Jason Tatum and that Jaylen Brown and that Porzingis do, because those are top 5 picks. Everybody on the Heat is somebody who overachieves, so I assume somebody will want to play with that.
All right, final thing. Riley's 78. How long does he want to do this and put up with this?
It's a great question. I have asked him for years, and it's too much a part of his identity. He wants to when you're talking about immortality and mortality, he doesn't want to leave with the team in disarray. He doesn't want to leave with the team not in safe hands. And I've made the joke to him and others before. I do believe that the Miami Heat will use Pat Riley's mythology 10 years after he has died. They will pretend that he was still alive and in the chair in order to continue to get what is a rather remarkable run of 30 years of one voice, one place being in charge.
I'll tell you what, Dan, I know you're busy today. I thank you for giving us some time. That's really interesting stuff going on in Miami. I appreciate you coming on with us.
Mike, I always love talking to you. Don't be a stranger.
All right, be well, my friend. That is Dan Le Batard. He has a great show with Stu Gotts and the South Beach Sessions. Those are great long-form sit-downs that you should watch. You know, when he has a guest on, he really gets a lot out of the guest. So you just wonder, Riley is such a stubborn guy, a guy from Schenectady, a tough man who, you know, Dan brought up the suspension of Anthony Mason. You know, he's that sort of coach. He's not the ooey-gooey friendly guy. And now he runs the whole thing with Spoelstra as the coach, but Spoelstra is an extension of Riley. And what Butler is doing exactly what he did to Tom Thibodeau in Minnesota. There's no deviation from, you knew this was going to happen. You just think at what point was it going to happen, and this is the point that it happened. So Butler wants to go to Phoenix. Riley wants to send him to an outpost. You know, he's not going to get a return for Butler, no matter where he sends him. So if you are a tough, old-school guy, you want to send him someplace where he's going to be miserable. And that's what he's going to try to do. We'll see. And, I do wonder, does the possibility exist where he says, I'm not going to send you anywhere. Either play for us or you don't play. But it sounds like the Heat don't want him there either. That he's poisoned their culture, so to speak. Fascinating development, because that place is all about winning. And, he came in the other day and they told him he wasn't going to start the next game. That was after his previous suspension, and he walked out. So after he walked out, it was another 2-game suspension. It's going to be interesting to see if those suspensions hold when they go to arbitration, whether or not the Heat are going to have to pay him despite suspending him. But at this point, he doesn't get paid when he's suspended. Coming up, Ian Begley is going to talk some Knicks with us, so a good start to the show. Daniel Tosh is coming to the Beacon Theater on Friday, April 4th this year. ESPN New York has your chance to score tickets on the ESPN New York app. Just scroll down to contests and submit your entry. Brought to you by Live Nation. Tickets go on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. at Ticketmaster.com. Ian Begley, we break down the Knicks, what they need, or if they need anything at all. That's coming up in a moment. Also, you're free to call in. This is not a solo show. It's me and it's you. 1-800-919-3776. Jeff Passan at 2 o'clock. It's the K Show right here on 880 ESPN.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? So you've got an oil change coming up. We can help you save on the right oil for your vehicle. Right now, get 5 quarts of Castrol Edge Full Synthetic or Castrol Edge Full Synthetic High Mileage Motor Oil with an STP Extended Life Oil Filter for just $35.99. Visit one of our 6,000 stores or order from AutoZone.com for same-day store pickup or next-day delivery.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Grainger knows space at your facility is limited. As a maintenance specialist, you only have so many spots for backup products in your inventory roster, which means space on your bench comes at a premium. Well, when it comes to breadth and depth, Grainger's got you covered. They've got over 1 million industrial-grade products. Plus, fast delivery helps reduce the inventory you need to keep on hand, freeing up space and capital while giving your operation a winning edge. Call 1-800-GRANGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by a local branch.
Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Michael K. Show, everybody. Knicks 143, Grizzlies 106. We opened the show talking about it, and now we return to the topic with Ian Begley of SNY, also the Putback Podcast. Ian, a great guest and a good friend, and he joins us now. Ian, it's Michael. How you doing?
I'm great, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Not as well as the Knicks last night, though. This team, I opened the show saying, could beat anybody, but it could also lose to anybody in a best of 7. How do you look at this team right now, where it stands, what it needs, what it might do?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that if they're totally healthy, right, and if all cylinders are going, I think they could give Boston some trouble in a series in the conference finals, but I don't know if they can get through Boston right now. I don't know if the depth is where it would need to be, and so that's kind of how I'm looking at them. And, you know, the firing on all cylinders is an open question, too, because we've seen it the past couple of games here, past 4 games, I would say, but it had been up and down before then. So there's certainly evidence to say that this could be a top team and they could beat anybody. But, Michael, I agree with you. There's also evidence to say that they can lose to anyone based on how the roster looks.
All right, so let's talk about that depth. Is it doable to improve the depth, or is that apron, you know, almost a thing that they cannot cross and they can't make any moves, and the only thing that they could really do is wait for Mitchell Robinson?
It starts with Mitchell Robinson, actually, Michael, and they can make trades. They just can't take back more salary than they are sending out, and so that's one of the restrictions of being a first apron team. They can make trades. They can combine players in a trade. So when I say it starts with Mitchell Robinson, I mean they've been waiting for him to be back for a while now, and I'm not suggesting that Robinson is taking his time. He's working as hard as he can. But the timetable for him to return has changed at least twice, and now here we are, late January, and to my knowledge, Robinson hasn't been cleared yet for contact in practice. That's the big hurdle for him. There had been some optimism about him returning in early February, mid-February. We're not there yet, so the Knicks have a tough decision to make coming up. Trade deadline, February 6th. Are they confident enough in Mitchell Robinson to not go ahead and trade for a center? They think Robinson could give them what they need at the backup 5 spot. And if they're not, they would have to pivot and go out and find somebody. And if they do pivot, I think Washington's Jonas Valanciunas would be one of the centers on their radar.
So if they can make that deal done with not taking back more than they're giving away, they don't mind going over that separate second apron, which has a lot of negativity attached to it?
Right. So that's the thing. They would stay under that apron because they'll be taking back less than they're sending out,
Gotcha.
Or an equal amount than they're sending out. Because right now they're just a hair under it, and I think they would remain under it. Yeah, nobody wants to go over that second apron, and it's really making trades very difficult to make around the league. I think teams are frustrated by it, and agents of players who want their guys moved are frustrated by it. It's going to be interesting to see how things play out at the deadline.
It's so unbelievable that the Knicks they got undermined by the CBA, which obviously they agreed to as well, because they were handcuffed on what they could give Hartenstein. If Hartenstein was on this team, I don't think we would be talking about a depth problem, right?
Absolutely. I mean, in a way, they were hurt by their own strong scouting, you want to call it, because they signed Hartenstein to the deal they signed him to. He played well above that deal, and as you said, they just were unable to go to a certain level contractually with him this summer. And OKC blew their Knicks limit out of the water. And yeah, if Hartenstein was here, I mean, he could play with Karl Towns, without Karl Towns. I don't even know if they make the Towns deal if Hartenstein is still here. So there's a lot of dominoes from that hypothetical, but without a doubt, yeah, this team would be very good with him.
All right, so let me piggyback on that because that's interesting. So you're not sure they make the Towns deal if Hartenstein was here. So do you think that a team with Hartenstein, Randall, and DiVincenzo is better than the team they have now with Cat?
I don't, and I say that for a couple reasons. One, with Julius Randle in particular, look, if they weren't going to extend him, which they weren't, and he was up for an extension this year, he would have been facing a summer where he could be a free agent, contract status up in the air. He's a guy who's a lightning rod for the fans, so he'd be getting heat when they lose, not getting credit when they win. It would just be a difficult year for him. So I think from that perspective alone, this team would be better. And then, you factor in what's going on the court. Karl-Anthony Towns with his three-point shooting has really spread the floor for everybody, Jalen Brunson included. And what you've seen the past couple games here is everybody touching the ball, everybody getting involved in the offense, looking like Leon Rose and his guys pictured it when they made these deals.
All right, so here's my concern with Cat. Before yesterday hitting the 2 threes, he had been really bad from three since injuring his thumb. I'm not a doctor, Ian, but I don't think that continuing to play is going to make the thumb better. Is it going to be a problem all year where one of his strengths is weakened because of the fact that he's hurt?
The thumb will not get better, Michael, with that bone chip. Maybe the sprain gets better. It's gotten better to the point where he can play, but that bone chip not going anywhere unless he decides to have a surgical procedure, which is not on the table right now. So you have every reason to be concerned. I do think that what you saw last night was promising. I mean, he's such a great shooter that I think he's going to find a way to adjust, but he did acknowledge that the 2 for 4 that he was last night was more so about just getting comfortable shooting with the injured thumb, and it wasn't about the thumb healing in any way, shape, or form. So it is something that's going to be there for the rest of the year.
Ian Begley of SNY is our guest here on the Michael K. Show. Any chance Josh Hart, who's been playing magnificently, actually gets to the All-Star team?
Coaches were voting on the reserves, right? I think they prioritize winning when it's a tough choice to make. So I think Hart, in that sense, I could see him garnering some votes. I'm not sure that, it's I don't want to say it's hard to gauge his value if you're not watching him night in and night out, because I don't think it is, but you really understand how good he is and how much he impacts winning when you're watching every minute of this team. And the coaches around the league obviously are not watching every minute of this team. So I wonder if that, impacts how many votes he gets. But I do think he'll get votes, and we'll see how it shakes out.
McBride and Achua had good games last night, 14 points apiece. That's obviously their bench right there. Could their bench, if they don't make any move, actually be better as time goes on, as Thibodeau gets more faith in them? And again, the wild card is whether or not Mitchell Robinson gets back. Without a move, if Mitchell Robinson gets back maybe at the end of February and McBride and Achua continue to play well, is their bench good enough for them to advance to, even an NBA Finals?
If Boston's healthy, I say no, but I do think, particularly you look at Landry Shamet, if he starts to catch a rhythm from beyond the arc, they all of a sudden have depth. If you're talking about Mitchell Robinson coming back healthy, the campaign there too. So the depth problem is not as much there, but I do think that, in a perfect world, you'd have maybe another wing off the bench, another guy who can create his own shot off the bench with some more wingspan. So I don't see them getting past Boston in that scenario, but I could see where they could live with or be happy with their bench in the scenario you're talking about where Mitchell Robinson comes back healthy.
You keep mentioning getting past Boston. You're not mentioning Cleveland. Do you think that Boston is more of a problem than Cleveland?
Just because of their playoff success. They've done it together. Cleveland has had some success together. I just think that, Boston is well seasoned, and if the Knicks are going to get past anybody to get to the conference final, I think it would more likely be Cleveland than Boston. I think that's the better road there. No disrespect to Kenny Atkinson and his group. I think it's just more about what Boston has done together, and they're all back together. So that's the way I see it.
All right, Ian, I've got a question that I don't know the answer to, and no one I've spoken to has the answer to. Maybe you do. I never have seen somebody do such an extraordinarily good job at what they do and not want to accept any flowers? And I'm talking about Leon Rose. Why is this guy insisted upon just not making himself available and to flex just a little bit? Because what he and his staff have done, they've turned a laughingstock franchise into a possible champion, and we hear nothing from the guy. The only interview he has ever done was with Mike Breen on the MSG Network. Otherwise, he's a ghost. Why is he like this?
Well, I think, first of all, Michael, at the top, right, and James Dolan is not demanding that he does any interviews or any extra media than the Knicks are required to do. So you start there. And then I think that he's been behind the scenes as an agent his whole career. He's comfortable behind the scenes working his angles, not in the public spotlight. So I think maybe there's a comfort level or from a strategic standpoint, just him being away from me. I hate it because I have a million questions for him. And, you know, even when they were struggling, that's probably when you wanted to hear from him more. But now, as you say, they're playing really well. They're set up for a nice little run here over the next few years. You'd love to hear from him, but I think it's a combination of nobody's asking him to do it. They're actually okay with him not doing it, and he's okay not doing it, and that's why we sit where we sit.
The funny thing is, like, I took my son last year on his birthday to a Knicks game, and, you know, we were sitting there watching, you know, shooting before the game, and he came out. He's the nicest guy, Leon Rose, and I think that he would, you know, acquit himself well in any kind of interview. It's just so odd that he doesn't want to accept his flowers, but maybe he's shy. Could be that, Ian. Maybe he's shy.
Well, I got to say, if he's going to do anything, he should do an interview on the Michael Kay show. I think that would be fantastic. You get him for 20 minutes and you guys break things down. But Michael, I have a question for you, if I may. Yes. Mike Breen, one of my favorite people, not even in the business, maybe on the planet. You know, I know that you guys went to school together. Can I have one, like, crazy college story with you two? Is there anything you could share? Because, I mean, I was a knucklehead in college. I had my wild nights. Did you guys do anything crazy together? Give me something.
We actually did do crazy things. I'll tell you one. Well, I'll tell you two stories. We would sit, like, he was a year behind me. He was a freshman when I was a sophomore, and we would sit in the campus center and, you know, eat lunch or whatever. Two kids from humble beginnings. He's from Yonkers. I'm from the Bronx. And he would sit there and talk about how, you know, the thing he wants to do most in life is to be the Knicks announcer. And I would say the thing I want to do most in life is to be the Yankee announcer. Two loser kids. And we talk about it to this day. He's like my closest friend about how it turned out, how it's like kind of all of a fairy tale. And the wild things that we did, we actually we went to we had dinner one night when we were kids at the Church Key, which is a bar restaurant near Iona. And then we drove to Fordham after that in his old car and screaming at the top of our lungs with the windows down, singing The Entertainer by Billy Joel. So I don't know if that's wild enough for you, but that's the fun stuff that we did.
Oh, man. If only there was TikTok back then. That would be
if there was only video and audio evidence of that, because we could sing. We really could.
Tremendous.
Well, I like the fact that you think Leon Rose should be on the show. That would be a good thing. Maybe I could use Mike Breen to push that.
Yeah, get Mike involved.
Yeah,
I'll make
absolutely.
it happen.
Good stuff as always, Ian. Thanks for popping on. I appreciate it.
Anytime, Michael. Take care.
You got it. That's Ian Begley, SNY, his podcast, the Put Back Podcast. He's really locked in. He does a really good job covering basketball. Hey, maybe the off season, but every season is Bigelow tea season. You know I'm picky about what I drink, especially on days I have a show. One of the first things I do each day is reach for a mug full of Bigelow tea. I love the different flavor options, and it's perfect for someone who makes his living behind a microphone. Want to know what keeps me going? Look no further than my cup of Bigelow tea next to me in the studio. So grab a mug full of your favorite Bigelow tea and tea proudly. Bigelow tea, the official hot tea of the New York Yankees.
This is a PSA, or public sock announcement. Experts have declared Bombas socks as the best way to warm up chilly feet. These pairs are super cushy, soft, and designed for maximum coziness. Plus, for every pair purchased, another pair will be donated, so someone in need of essential clothing can stay warm this winter. Go to bombas.com/ESPNpod and use code ESPNpod for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/ESPNpod and use code ESPNpod.
TaxAct knows you probably don't need help filing taxes. But if you get stuck, we have live experts you can talk to. And who knows, you could hit it off and become long-term tax friends, staying up late at night, talking about deductions, refunds, personal exemptions. Heck, you could even fall in love and create a little dependent of your own one day. Or they could just answer your filing questions. Tax Act. Let's get them over with.
There's one thing that will forever change the way you sleep, and it's the softest 100% organic cotton sheets from Boll & Branch. You'll fall asleep faster, wrapped in the most luxurious comfort. You'll never sleep hot again, with sheets that feel breathable to sleep in. You'll experience the purest softness on night one, and feel your sheets get even softer with every wash. Discover the difference with 15% off your first set of sheets at bollandbranch.com with code SPORTS15. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. 1-800-919-3776. We've done a lot of talk in the first two segments. Let's hear from you. You're the co-host of the show. Again, the number is 1-800-919-3776. The NFL is an absolute machine. It's a machine. Did you see the numbers on the Bills-Chiefs game? Did you see what it drew on CBS? 57.7 million people watched that game. That's the number one AFC championship game ratings-wise since 1988. So Taylor Swift was a factor last year, and it didn't get 57.7 million. And the Chiefs were there the year before, didn't get 57.7 million. It's extraordinary. It's in a television universe now where that just doesn't happen. The only place it happens is in NFL football. Show me another television product that can produce that sort of number. That's why the NFL could do what it wants. That's why I laugh, though, when people are intimating, even more than intimating, screaming loudly, that the NFL is rigged so that the Chiefs could get to the Super Bowl and they could get the Taylor Swift factor. The NFL doesn't need the Taylor Swift factor. Now, they don't turn it down. They're not stupid. But if Taylor Swift never existed, it would still get an unbelievable number. You know why I got an unbelievable number on Sunday? Because it's Patrick Mahomes against Josh Allen. And people that say they have Chiefs fatigue, it didn't show up watching the AFC Championship game, did it? Chiefs fatigue. They're sick of Patrick Mahomes. Then why did 57.7 million people watch the game? Why? Why did they watch the game? Explain that to me. I think a dynasty that you're trying to knock off the pedestal is the best thing that a league could have. Some of the strongest World Series ratings were when the Yankees were ripping through the mid-90s. Because who was going to beat the Yankees? Who could knock the Yankees off? Dynasties work. When the NBA really took hold, it was because it was Magic and Bird. Two big stars. Dynasties on each side of the coast. Who was going to knock them off? And then Jordan. The popularity soared. That's why when people say I'm sick of Mahomes, I think you're lying. You can't take your eyes off of him. You can't take your eyes off the Chiefs playing. You can't. You won't. Thou doth protest too much about the Chiefs. You are watching when they play. And you know why? Because even if you don't like them, you want to see them beat. You want to see some team beat them. So I think you have to recalibrate what you're saying. You don't have Chiefs fatigue. You hate Patrick Mahomes. But just because you hate somebody doesn't mean you're not going to watch them. Not the way it works. And the numbers prove otherwise. 57.7 million people. Are you kidding me? Unheard of. I mean, a big show now on TV. A big show. Linear TV. What, gets 8-9 million people that watch? A sitcom or a procedural? And they had 57.7 million people in this country, which doesn't agree on anything, sit down and consume that game. Yeah, Chiefs fatigue. I'll play along. It's Super Box Bonanza 6. Each qualifier will take home an ESPN prize pack and have a chance of 1 of 10 Superbox prizes, including a Ninja air fryer, a Solo stove, Ray-Ban Meta Wayfarers, and more. Be caller number 10 right now at 888-987-ESPN to select a box for the big game with a chance to win $250 in the first and third quarters, $500 at halftime, and a final score payout of $1,000. All brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey and Sloman's Security. Let's go to the phones. Let's see. I do not have access to my screen, so you guys back at the studio are going to have to do it. Let's go to Dave in the car. Dave.
Hey, how you doing, Mike? I agree with you. The dynasties are good, but I mean, with the Yankees, that's a New York audience. That's the biggest market. In L.A. with the Lakers, that's a big market. Chicago Bulls, Jordan, that's a big market.
Okay, so how do you explain Kansas City and Buffalo getting 57 million people?
Well, because everybody's rooting for Buffalo to win. That's why there's 57 million people watching. Other than the Kansas City Chiefs, I think that's why everybody's rooting against them, because they're not some big money market team. But you got Mahomes, and he's one of the best quarterbacks to ever live. That's why I think that it's working with that situation. But I don't think there's too many people that want Kansas City to win, unless you live in Kansas City. To be honest with you, I don't think there's too much of an intriguing situation without Taylor Swift and Kelsey and all this other craziness going on. But what you said is true. But everything you said is true. It has to do with big money market situations.
I hear what you're saying, Dave. But I don't, and I thank you for the phone call. I don't necessarily agree, because when LeBron was on the Cavaliers, they were a huge draw on TV. Stars now get ratings. You watch the NBA, right? Or you watch the NFL, and you see the Bills and the Chiefs. All right, and let's just look at Major League Baseball, which everyone who's listening to the show knows I love. A Major League Baseball team could not exist in Buffalo. It couldn't. It thrives in the NFL. You look at Kansas City. The Kansas City Chiefs the Kansas City Royals have their run. They could get good. Everything has to go right, but they can't keep the team together all that long. The Chiefs have been to 7 straight AFC championships, now 3 straight Super Bowls. Why? Because it's the NFL. And they have everything split 32 ways. Every team is on equal footing. The Green Bay Packers in Green Bay, Wisconsin, could not exist in Major League Baseball. It just couldn't. The NFL has the magic touch, and it's also an incredible betting sport. And with the advent of legalized betting all around the country now, it can't miss. And that's why I laugh when people have the audacity to say that the NFL is rigging the system so that the Chiefs get to the Super Bowl. Talk about, they would be cutting the head off the golden goose. They don't have to do anything like that. Anything. Any combination of 2 teams that would play in the Super Bowl would get over 100 million viewers. Don't you people realize that? They wouldn't have to fix games so that Taylor Swift could be at the Super Bowl. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thought. Look at some of the highly rated Super Bowls. Taylor Swift wasn't involved. It's the NFL. It's the betting. It's the boxes. It's the legalized sports betting act. Stop it. They're not rigging games so the Kansas City Chiefs could win. They're not. Talk about killing the golden goose. They would slay it. It would be over. The one thing that fans can't take is if they don't think that the results of a sport are on the up and up. Every single team, every single league assiduously watches that their games are on the up and up. That's why there's a sign in every Major League Baseball clubhouse. You can't bet on games. If it ever got out that the NFL, that their fingerprints were on telling the officials to call things in favor of the Kansas City Chiefs, it could be over. Why would they do that? This league prints money. 57.7 million people. Doesn't get better than that. Game Time brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey. Because when it's game time, it's Tully time. At 7 p.m., Rangers host the Hurricanes at Madison Square Garden, and pregame coverage begins at 6:30 right here on 880 ESPN. Then at 7:30 p.m., Islanders host the Avalanche. That's at UBS Arena. Tullamore Dew, the original triple distilled, triple blended, triple cask matured Irish whiskey. Be sure to grab a Tullamore Dew. Try the new Tullamore Dew Honey during today's action. Glasses up to enjoying Tullamore Dew responsibly. We'll come back, give you another Super Box that you could play for in the 2 o'clock hour. But coming up momentarily, we will talk to the great Jeff Passan about what's going on with Pete Alonso. Will he end up in Queens or will he end up north of the border? It's the K Show right here on 880 ESPN.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN.
Suck it up and like it.
The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Flex your business with an American Express Business Gold Card. You'll earn 4 times membership rewards points on your top 2 eligible spending categories, like transit and electronics, each month, on up to $150K in combined purchases per year. Plus, you can now earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold, built for business by American Express.
This is the Michael K Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
Welcome back to the Michael K Show. I always look forward to talking with our next guest. How could you not like Jeff Passan? It's like the old line from the Seinfeld series where, you know, Jerry's mom is watching him on TV when they have the pilot on, and she goes, how could you not love him? That's how Jeff Passan is to me and to everyone. He covers baseball for ESPN, and now he talks with us. Hi, Jeff.
Hello, Michael. Thank you for the kind introduction. I appreciate that.
Oh, it's so true, too. It really is. You know how I feel about you.
Mutual, my friend. And it's
Nice.
It's good to be on the new, what's the right way to put it?
Solo vehicle?
Yeah, I was going to say solo. I could have said solo, but I was going to say you got rid of separating the wheat from the chaff.
Oh, wow. That's going to come up on the show coming up. Wow. You shouldn't go there because they'll get mean. All right, Jeff, what is happening with Pete Alonso? Has Scott Boras pushed Steve Cohen too far?
No, it's saber rattling. It's posturing at this point because I look. Do I think Pete Alonso is going to wind up a New York Met? I don't know. But what I can say is that the New York Mets need Pete Alonso more than any other team out there right now needs him. They need him for protection in the lineup for Juan Soto. They need him because, frankly, they do not have a good enough offense right now. And they need him because, honestly, when you have a guy who has the history that Pete Alonso does with the New York Mets and the contract structure is not absurd, which at this point it is certainly not, it just makes too much sense for it not to happen. Now, there's a possibility that another team, I don't know who it is at this point, maybe it's the Los Angeles Angels, maybe it's the Toronto Blue Jays, whoever it may be, steps in and gives him the sort of money that the Mets are not willing to. But the longer this thing plays out, the more it feels like a return just makes sense for everybody involved.
Well, let me give you my thought on it and see if you agree. If the reports are true that the Mets were at 68 to 70 for 3 years and that Alonso wanted 3 for 75, that's, again, if they're true, that screams to me, Jeff, the Mets just don't want him. I mean, you could value somebody at a certain price, but if you really want the guy, as you said, and they need protection for Soto, what does $5 million mean to the New York Mets? So I understand the saber rattling. I have never heard an owner be that blunt the way that Steve Cohen was at the Met event. It just makes me seem like I don't know if there's a middle ground there, if they're both going to dig in like they have.
Yeah, I don't think that's an unreasonable perspective to have at this point. And look, nobody's happy where things are at right now. But let's also acknowledge, Michael, that this is a negotiation. And in negotiation, there are moments when the sides get pissed off at each other. That's just something that inevitably happens in almost every negotiation, in almost every walk of life. Rarely do you come to a place where both sides are happy without a little bit of fighting and without a little bit of consternation. So I think once the sides cool down a little bit, there will likely be more substantive discussion about this because, again, I keep getting back to this, because the fit is right. Pete Alonso doesn't want to go play on a team that's not going to be in contention. He's done that enough in his tenure with the Mets. And he's 30 years old now. And so it's time to start winning. It's time to go get a ring. You're not getting a ring with the Angels. You're probably not getting a ring, let alone a playoff spot with the Blue Jays. The Mets, on the other hand, you put Pete Alonso in that lineup, and they are every bit as formidable as the Atlanta Braves and the Philadelphia Phillies in that division. Without him, though, I think the Mets are the third best team.
It's interesting, though, because teams start reporting on February 11th, February 12th. Is there a line in the sand that you say, okay, now I'm concerned he's not going to be back with the Mets?
No, and I think that's more because of the history, right? We saw this last year. Spring training starts, and Cody Bellinger's not signed, and Blake Snell's not signed, and Jordan Montgomery's not signed. Like, there are guys who Scott Boras is willing to take into spring training without a contract. Now, you go and look at somebody like Snell or Matt Chapman. They both came out and had really good years despite this. On the other hand, Bellinger was just sort of and opted back into his deal before getting traded to the Yankees, and Montgomery was terrible. So, there are different routes that this can go, but I don't think there's a hard deadline at this point. I think that Pete Alonso right now is just trying to make the best of a situation that's gone sideways, and the Mets are trying to act like a responsible baseball team and not one that's going to go out there just shoveling cash right and left to try and bring guys in and build a team that's just average. This is a much more disciplined, New York Mets team.
No, I find that interesting, but isn't the Mets' strength the wallet of Steve Cohen, though? Aren't you taking away his strength?
Yeah, but at some point, it's like, are we spending just to spend and just to use that advantage? And I suppose the answer there could be yes, because I think that's precisely what the Los Angeles Dodgers are doing right now. And I'm not sure if you read what I wrote last week, Michael,
I
on
read
the subject
everything
of
you
the
write.
Dodgers. But well, thank you. I appreciate that. For those who didn't, though, and I think this ties back into the Mets, let's look at baseball writ large right now. You have a bunch of teams out there that have holes who should be signing guys and improving their teams, right? Just free agents. But there are restrictions, whether it's the competitive balance tax or luxury tax, whether it's draft pick compensation that you have to give up for signing free agents who have been offered the qualifying offer, whatever it is, there are restrictions in place that ostensibly should limit spending across the game, right? The problem is there are teams, and maybe this isn't a problem, but maybe this is a sign that it's not working. There are teams like the Dodgers and like the Mets that say these restrictions are not harsh enough to stop us from spending because we feel like the dollars we're putting out there are more valuable than the penalties that we get for spending. And when you have that, where a vast majority of teams are slowed down by those penalties in place, but you have a couple of teams that are willing to spend past them, that's where you get the large gap in payrolls and the large gap seemingly in the team's talent with the Dodgers and everyone else right now. And so, yeah, I think the Dodgers have made a calculated play here, Michael. They've said if everyone else is going to be scared off by spending, we should spend even more than we would have to heighten that gap between us and those other teams. And if you want to argue that that's what the Mets should be doing too, I don't think that's an unreasonable thing at all.
But with the Dodgers doing what they're doing, I just look across town from the Mets at the Yankees. And the Yankees have always had a high payroll, but they seem insistent they are not going over the Cohen luxury tax this year. That's why they're going in with a giant question mark at third base or second, whichever way you want to look at it. So, and one of the reasons I've always heard is because the penalties are so tough. With
they're not.
How do Yankees talk to their fans?
They're not. Well, I think that's the point. If the penalties are so tough, then why are the Dodgers and Mets doing it?
Well, the Mets aren't over yet. Again, they might.
Yeah, but they have been. They have been the last 2 years.
Right.
So they have shown a willingness to go there. And at the end of the day, like, Michael, these are the New York freaking Yankees. If a luxury tax threshold is impeding them, that says more about where they are than it does the luxury tax itself.
Well, I don't think
when have the Yankees ever played third fiddle in baseball? That's where they are right now when it comes to spending.
But the question is, I don't think that the 110% tax, because this would be the third time they're over it, is what's affecting them.
Right.
They keep talking about the draft picks and the foreign money and stuff like that. But you're saying that's not as onerous as it's made out to be.
Don't get me wrong; it is onerous. But if you have trust in your scouting staff, if you have trust in your development staff, if you have shown the ability to produce major league caliber prospects out of your minor league system, then I think you look at those and you say it impedes us, but it doesn't stop us. It makes it a little bit more difficult, but I'm okay having more difficulty on the minor league level if my big league team is better. Because when the big league team is better, man, people want to join you. Like, look at what the Dodgers are doing right now, Michael. They're not paying absurd amounts for any of the guys that they're signing. They're not going over market value on any of the guys they're signing. I mean, let's look at their whole roster right now. Mookie Betts, under market deal. Shohei Ohtani, the best deal in all of baseball, despite the fact that it's $700 million. Like, the best value, period. Freddie Freeman, under market deal, just this winter. Teoscar Hernandez at $66 million, market price. Tanner Scott at $18 million a year, market price. They paid a lot for Yamamoto. They were maybe a little bit over on Blake Snell, but everybody could have had Blake Snell cheap last winter. They chose not to. They paid a little bit over on Tyler Glasnow, but by and large, this is a team that has been constructed with guys wanting to come there because they believe they have a better chance to win a championship. So if you are the New York Yankees and you're consistent every year in being in the ALCS, in making the World Series, you're not going to have to overpay for guys at that point. I think you can save money on the back end by spending more on the front end.
Now, the rebuttal from them, if I could serve that, would be,
Please.
You know what? We're the best team in the American League with what we've done. And then it's just a crapshoot in the best of 7 against any team in the National League. Do you buy that they're the best team in the American League?
I think they're in the mix. The American League is just kind of middling now. I mean, if we look at it, the Orioles haven't done a whole lot. Like Charlie Morton, Tyler O'Neill, Tomoyuki Sugano. It's not the guy that they needed to replace Corbin Burns. Boston is a demonstrably better team, but they were 500 last year. And I think the Red Sox in 2026 are going to be terrifying because by then Roman Anthony and Christian Campbell and Marcelo Meyer are likely to be up complementing this group that has Garrett Crochet and added Walker Buehler as well this year. But this year, I think the Red Sox are like a borderline playoff team. The Rays are going to be good. They're going to be better. The Blue Jays right now, I don't know what the hell they are. In the Central, does Cleveland scare you? Does Kansas City? Does Detroit? Does Minnesota? Not really. No. And out west, Houston traded its best player in Kyle Tucker. Seattle hasn't done crap. Texas has gotten better. And I think the Rangers, who won the World Series 2 years ago, they're a threat. But the American League right now is so wide open that, the Yankees can say that they're the best, but I don't think they stack up to certainly not to the Dodgers. And you can make an argument that the Phillies are better than them, the Braves are better than them. The Diamondbacks, after adding Corbin Burns, are right there, if not better than them. Like a lot of National League teams have supremacy over the American League right now, Michael.
I would agree. I think the American League has turned into the NBA's Eastern Conference, and I mean that's just the way it is. But all you have to do is get out of that league and go to the World Series. So you mentioned all the teams in the National League that could be better. You only have to beat one of them in the World Series, right?
No doubt. And at the same time, though, and the thing that gives me hope that Major League Baseball is not going to turn into this sport where the same team is winning every year. And listen, as somebody who lives in Kansas City and is a season ticket holder, I'm perfectly fine with the Kansas City Chiefs being that. But for the health of an overall sport, that's not a good thing. I think that the playoffs in baseball are such an equalizer, Michael. You know that the best team doesn't always get out of the division series,
right,
let alone the league championship series, because in baseball, it's not whether you're better or worse, it's whether you're hot or cold. And you just got to get hot at the right time, and there's really no predicting that. The Yankees got hot at the right time last year, and then they got cold at the wrong time, and that's how you lose a World Series in 5 games.
Here's my biggest concern, because I love the sport so much, and I assume that you do as well because you make your living in it. I just think that there's such a separation between the Dodgers and others. And forget about the Yankees and the Phillies and the Mets, but just the others, just the teams that don't spend like that and can't, that this is going to lead to a work shutdown where the owners are going to insist on a salary cap, where every other league has it, every other league is thriving. Do you see it the same way? And also, do you see that other owners are going to force Major League Baseball to have a draft of Japanese players rather than all of them going to the Dodgers?
Well, I'm not sure, first off, that every other league is thriving necessarily due to a salary cap. Let's acknowledge that the other 3 major men's professional sports in North America all have had work stoppages more recently than Major League Baseball, right?
Yes.
Let's look at the revenue in Major League Baseball, up to $12 or $13 billion a year. And the question for players is, are we getting our rightful cut? And I also don't think that a salary cap is necessarily the thing that brings parity to Major League Baseball. Now, I get that the Dodgers have an unfair advantage because of their revenues, but let's also look at revenues versus spending. The Dodgers are willing to put their money where their mouth is. They're willing to go out there and spend on players. And that is something that, not only in a place like Baltimore or Tampa or Pittsburgh or Colorado, like there are plenty of organizations that do not go out there and spend comparative to their revenues. So I think this is as much a system issue and an owner issue as it is a Dodgers issue. The Dodgers are just taking advantage of the rules that are on the table right now. And if you want to argue, Michael, that the rules that are on the table right now are not conducive to a healthy league, I don't entirely disagree with you. But I also don't think the rejoinder from Major League Baseball, which is going to be we need more restrictions on the top, necessarily correspond with a healthier league. I feel like if you're going to put more restrictions on the top, you better put more incentives on the bottom for those teams to go out and spend, because a healthy league is one in which all 30 teams are participating and trying to win. And a lot of these teams right now looking at the Dodgers saying we feel like we can't compete with them. Well, maybe actually try to compete. And then we can see if that's the case. And if that's the case, then yeah, you're going to need to change the rules. You're going to need to change revenue sharing. You're going to need to do things to find that balance that is so difficult to strike. But Michael, there's not going to be a salary cap. We're going to lose a year of baseball if that's the line in the sand that Major League Baseball is drawing. It's as simple as that. And I think there's just too much money for everyone to make to let the pursuit of a salary cap stand in the way of the success of this sport long term.
Well, just before you came on, I made this point. The Bills and the Chiefs drew 57.7 million viewers on CBS on Sunday. The Bills could not exist in Major League Baseball, and this is nearer to where you are. The Chiefs, the Kansas City Royals, could not be great for 7 years in a row. The system doesn't allow it. They would not be able to pay all their players to do it.
I disagree with you on that. I think they can. I think it's just more difficult. We can't say the Bills would exist, by the way, Michael. Like, come on.
In Buffalo? Buffalo
Yes,
would have a team in Major League Baseball? Green Bay would have a team in Major League Baseball?
Yes, I think that places that have passionate fan bases can have teams in Major League Baseball.
But they wouldn't get money from a regional television network, Jeff.
Well, and that's part of this, right? The disparity between television networks.
Yes.
And it's not just the Dodgers, it's the Yankees, it's the Mets, it's the Cubs, it's the Red Sox. It's all these teams that own and operate successful regional sports networks, whereas the rest of the regional sports network industry has had the bottom drop out from under it because of cord cutting. And MLB right now, if there is an existential crisis that it's facing, it is how do we operate fairly when there's such a disparity in television contracts. And look, Rob Manfred has said explicitly he wants a 30-team package. He wants every team to be involved in this. But if you're the New York Yankees, why the hell would you say yes to that?
Right, or the Dodgers or the Mets.
Yeah, absolutely. Why would you give up what you have right now? So if there's a fight that's going to be going on, it's not just between Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association, Michael. There's going to be some internecine warfare on the owner side as well, because they are going to be clawing and scrapping for every dollar they can in what's going to be one of the most important negotiations that there's been in baseball in decades, which is how do you figure out how to solve this television crisis?
And that's why I feel that any negotiation between the Players Association and Major League Baseball is the toughest because, as you said, it's not just the owners against the players. It's the owners against the owners against the players. Pittsburgh wants what the Yankees have, and the Yankees aren't going to give that up.
No doubt. And the Yankees, the Yankees understandably don't want to give that up. They have built something. And look, you could have a failure in a big market. If they did not build out as well as they have, then it's going to fail. We've seen that with other regional sports networks before, but the Yankees have done a good job of leveraging this property that they built from the ground up. And now you're going to come to them and say, because you've been successful, you have to give more money to these teams that have shown an unwillingness to compete and just pocketing their profits. It's a ridiculous conceit. And so if there need to be more strictures in place in order to hold the Pirates and the Marlins and the A's and these other teams that don't go out and spend accountable, then you should do it. But beyond that, Michael, let's look not just at the teams at the lower level, but let's look at the Boston Red Sox and the Chicago Cubs. These are teams with high revenues that still are not spending right now. Right. And Tom Ricketts coming out and saying it's hard to compete with the Dodgers, playing with the world's tiniest violin. I do not want to hear about the poor Chicago Cubs. Stop it. Stop trying to treat us like we're stupid. We're not. We understand how this thing goes. And if you want to use the Dodgers as an excuse, that just makes you look smaller and even worse than you are.
Jeff, I don't know if we're talking with Jeff Passan here on the Michael K. Show. You know what the key to the success of the Yes Network was, right? Their play-by-play.
Michael K. on play-by-play, of course.
It's really, really important. People don't realize that, but at least you do. You're so smart, and you get it. You get it.
Perceptiveness, Michael.
Bregman end up back with the Astros, you think?
If you gave me $1 and said I have to bet it, yeah, probably. But it's by no means a fait accompli at this point. And I also wonder what it does to the Astros. Like, are you telling me that Isaac Paredes at second base and Jose Altuve in left field with the Crawford boxes out there is a good idea defensively? I don't know about that, man. And so the possibility of Bregman moving to second base, I think that's out there, and I think that probably, if he resigns there, would be the better move. But at this point, Toronto needs something. They need someone. Anthony Santander is not enough. So I'm going to keep the window open there for Bregman. I don't think Boston's particularly likely to happen at this point. Detroit makes a lot of sense just in terms of young team, leadership, relationship between Bregman and A.J. Hinch as former manager in Houston. That part, though, it's not very conducive to his swing. So I think at the end of the day, Houston probably makes the most sense for him. But if he's not going to take the 6 for 156 on the table, is Jim Crane, the owner of the Astros, going to budge? At this point, he's shown absolutely no likelihood to do so.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like a budge guy. Final thing, are the Padres really considering trading King or Cease?
Yeah, I think that it's a possibility, but let's also remember their general manager is A.J. Preller, and he considers everything a possibility. The Padres, it's a sad state of affairs there right now. You know, Peter Seidler, if he were still alive right now, I think there's a really solid chance he would have signed Juan Soto long-term in San Diego.
Right.
Like, it's kind of wild to think about what Peter Seidler's very untimely and early death, what sort of demonstrable effect it had on the course of Major League Baseball history, because the Padres were ready to go all in on everything under him. He wanted to win. End of story. And now instead, his wife and his brothers are in a fight over the ownership of the team right now. They haven't signed a single player this winter. They missed out on Roki Sasaki, who they've spent years and years courting and hoping that he was going to come to San Diego. And instead, of course, he goes to the Dodgers. And now I think they're just trying to figure out how to put together the best team, not just for 2025, but beyond. And when your two best pitchers in Michael King and Dylan Cease are both free agents after this season, you have to at very least consider, if you're looking toward the future, moving one of them and seeing what you can do. So is it a possibility? Yes. Is it going to happen? Far too premature to say so.
Jeff, great stuff. I could talk to you for hours, but that's not fair to you. So I thank you for coming on for the time that you have. Appreciate it.
I would enjoy a multi-hour conversation, Michael. We'll have to do that sometime. I'll come in and be the special guest.
I'd love it. Tell me when you're in New York. Let's do it.
Looking forward to it. See you, pal.
All right. Be good, Jeff. That's Jeff Passan. Great stuff from him. Hey, it's Superbox Bonanza 6, and your chance to get your box for the big game with a prize pool of $2,000. All qualifiers will get an ESPN prize pack and a chance at one of 10 Superbox prizes. Listen daily through February 6th to DiPietro and Rothenberg, Bart and Carlin, the Michael K. Show, and Don Hahn and Rosenberg. This year's big game payouts are $250 in the first and the third quarters, $500 at halftime, and a final score payout of $1,000. All brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey and Sloman Security. For full contest details, go to superboxbonanza.com. All right, now it's time for the co-hosts to join me, 1-800-919-3776. That's the number. I talk with you the rest of the way. Super Bowl 59. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether you're predicting the first touchdown, who'll take home the MVP trophy, or the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to place your bets and feel the thrill of every moment. With live betting all game long, you can jump into the action, adjust your bets, and ride the wave of excitement from kickoff to the final whistle. Plus, to make the Super Bowl even sweeter, new customers can score $200 when you make your first bet. Just place a $5 bet, and if you win, you get $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com/K and bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
So it's a new year, 2025, and you're thinking, how am I going to make this year different? How am I going to build something for myself? The best time to start your new business is right now, and Shopify is how you're going to make it happen. Shopify makes it simple to create your brand, open for business, and get your first sale. Get your store up and running easily with thousands of customizable templates. No coding or design skills required. All you need to do is drag and drop. Their powerful social media tools let you connect all your channels and create shoppable posts and help you sell everywhere people scroll. Shopify makes it easy to manage your growing business. They help with the details like shipping, taxes, and payments from one single dashboard, allowing you to focus on the important stuff, like growing your business. What happens if you don't act now? Will you regret it? What if someone beats you to the idea? Don't kick yourself when you hear this again in a year because you didn't do anything now. With Shopify, your first sale is closer than you think. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/network, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/network to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/network.
If you wear glasses, you know how hard it is to find the perfect pair. But step into a Warby Parker store, and you'll see it doesn't have to be. Not only will you find a great selection of frames, you'll also meet helpful advisors and friendly optometrists. Yep, many Warby Parker locations also offer eye exams. So the next time you need glasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, or a new prescription, you know where to look. To find a Warby Parker store near you or to book an eye exam, head over to warbyparker.com/retail.
Grainger knows space at your facility is limited. As a maintenance specialist, you only have so many spots for backup products in your inventory roster, which means space on your bench comes at a premium. Well, when it comes to breadth and depth, Grainger's got you covered. They've got over 1 million industrial-grade products. Plus, fast delivery helps reduce the inventory you need to keep on hand, freeing up space and capital while giving your operation a winning edge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by a local branch.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the K Show. Interesting conversation. Just finished up with Jeff Passan. 3 great guests on the show. Dan Batard, Ian Begley, and Jeff Passan. And now it's time for you. Guys back in the studio. For some reason, I do not have control of my screen, so I don't know why that is happening, but I'll let you guys pick up the phone calls. Let's go to Jimmy in Staten Island. Jimmy.
Mike, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Jim?
Good, Mike. I give you a lot of credit because I never like that guy when he comes on your show. He's very condescending. And, Mike, I know you wanted to say it, but I'll say it. He's lost, Mike. This guy's lost. He thinks teams like Pittsburgh and Tampa, does he see what they have to do every year and get rid of their young guys? Did he see what goes on in Oakland? He thinks these teams could compete with the big money teams in baseball? What does he work for the Players Association?
Well, I listen, I think Jeff is a great guest. I understand what you're saying about him saying that because I disagree too. Tampa has to be extraordinarily smart just to stay competitive. They've yet to win a World Series. Pittsburgh has not been able to do it, and we thank you for the phone call. So my point is this. It's very, very difficult to do because of the disparity of money. You could say that Pittsburgh should be spending more money, and they should. They should. But there's no way that Pittsburgh could spend the $380 million that the Dodgers have spent on payroll. There's no way. They don't have that money. Kansas City can't do it either. Can they spend more? Yes. Do they pocket things that they should spend? Yes, they do. But to say that they could spend with the L.A. Dodgers and the New York Yankees and the New York Mets and the Boston Red Sox, it's not true. They can't. And if they do, then they're going to lose money. Because as rich of an owner as Steve Cohen is, do you realize that in the last 2 years, he's lost money on the Mets? He's lost money. Spending as much money as he did, I think he's lost about $150 million each year. Now, for a guy with $22 billion, I guess that doesn't matter. So he's taking money out of his own pocket to actually drive the engine of the Mets. But for the revenue that the Mets create, he is not able to support that payroll. So to say that people can spend what the Dodgers could spend, it's simply not true. They can't. They can't. They don't have the capability. They don't have the revenue to do it. And another thing I disagree with Jeff about, I adore Jeff, and I think he's one of the smartest people in our business, there could not be a team in Buffalo that can compete with the Dodgers. There couldn't be. And then there couldn't be a team in Green Bay. And Kansas City in 2014 and 2015, they made the World Series. They won that one against the Mets in 2015. They couldn't keep their players. They couldn't keep Hosmer. They couldn't keep Moustakas. They couldn't keep their players. And way back when, they couldn't keep Johnny Damon. They couldn't keep Carlos Beltran. They couldn't keep Jermaine Dye. They can't keep them. They can't compete with bigger market teams. And when Jeff says just unequivocally they'll never get a salary cap, and listen, I believe that there should be free market. But when you say they'll never get it, why did hockey get it? Why did the NBA get it? Why does the NFL have it? Why is the one line drawn in the sand that baseball players would never, ever, ever entertain a salary cap? If you could somehow manage to put all 30 teams on equal footing, isn't that better for the overall health of the team? And to say that the other sports aren't thriving, the NBA just signed this multi-billion-dollar deal for its television rights starting next year. People were bidding over themselves to get it. And there's a possibility that after 2025, ESPN could be out of the baseball business. They have a right to opt out of their contract and renegotiate. So where's baseball going to go then? The fact that most of the teams in baseball, not most, a quarter of the teams in baseball go into the season with no chance to win. No chance to win. Let's go to Glenn in Connecticut. Glenn. Hello, Glenn.
Hey, Michael. How you doing? Appreciate you taking the call.
You got it. What's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on kind of the growth of Tom Brady over the season. I listened in on Sunday, and I thought he sounded excellent. And kind of on the contrary, I thought Romo, I don't really know what Romo's ever saying. He's tough to follow, and I feel like hasn't been great this year. But I just wanted to kind of commend Tom Brady on
Glenn,
really kind of growing.
Glenn, I'm going to tell you what. I feel the same way you do. And what gets me, Glenn, I don't understand it. Why everybody thinks he's terrible. Tom Brady is not terrible. He says really smart things. I'm glad that you hear it because other people don't. I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks. Why are they always hating on this guy? Other than the fact that he's Tom Brady and has everything that we all want. But he is a really good broadcaster, and he's only going to get better. This is his first year. It's very, very odd, the Brady hate. It's very, very odd. I don't get it. Frank in Newark. Frank.
Hi, Mike. Great show as always. Thanks for taking the call. I just wanted to say, I agree with you with the Kansas City, with the dislike towards Kansas City and everything that goes along with it. But what some of these fan bases don't realize is where do you think you get some of these coaching candidates when at the end of the season comes and teams are looking for coaching candidates? They go to teams that have been the standard and have had a great season or a great couple of years. I'm not going to say Daboll, but let's say the Giants, for instance, when they went to hire Daboll and Shane, what did they look at? At Buffalo because of their success the last couple of years. Years ago, in the early 2000s, when the Patriots were having all that success, what was some of the teams doing? They were looking to see if they could mimic and get a coordinator from the Patriots that could possibly be a head coach. Now, I'm not going to say it's successful, but a lot of times these teams look at these successful franchises and try to mimic and try to mirror what has worked with them, and maybe bring something along from those franchises that they can carry on to the.
I agree, Frank. It comes down to that sports is a copycat business. What team's doing well, and how are they doing it, and let's try to copy it. But the funny thing is that nobody that's fallen off the branches of the Belichick tree has been a great coach. You can't say that Vrabel fell off the tree. He was never a coach with Belichick. He was a player. And there haven't been great candidates that have fallen off the Andy Reid tree. I mean, some coaches like Sean McVay, the Shanahan tree has certainly made a lot of great coaches, but there's some that don't. You could copy whatever you want. It's going to be interesting to see. Is Ben Johnson going to be great with the Bears? Is Aaron Glenn going to be great with the Jets just because they were part of a great culture in Detroit? It doesn't always work that way. But I guess the smart thing is to try to copy the successful teams and do what they've done. Let's see if it works. And nobody's going to try to get a coordinator off a bad team. That doesn't make sense. You want to go off a team that had success, and you want to look, okay, the guy that got hired in Jacksonville, he was the offensive coordinator in Tampa Bay, and Baker Mayfield had his greatest year. So, boom, you pluck him, and you try to do what you can do. Robert Saleh was a great defensive coordinator with San Francisco, so the Jets grabbed him. It works sometimes. It doesn't work other times. We're going to give away the final Superbox qualifier for the day for this show, so stick around for that. The number 1-800-919-3776. Michael K. and you right here on 880 ESPN.
TaxAct knows filing taxes can be confusing, so we have live experts on hand who can help answer any questions you may have. Questions like, can I claim my SUV as my home office if I answer work emails in my car? If I adopted 12 dogs this year, can I list them as dependents? And am I doing this right, or am I doing this very, very wrong? Our experts have the answers to those questions and many others. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, what the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass f- So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes CDT.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
I think my battery's dead.
With free battery testing and charging, we can help you get back on the road.
Get in the zone. Auto.
So what if I need a new one?
We have the right Duralast battery for you, only at AutoZone.
Get in the zone. Auto.
And what about my old battery?
We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination.
Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the show. I like the narrative that's starting to percolate. You know, the 2 weeks between the championship games and the Super Bowl always bring up some nonsense. So people on social media are actually killing the fact that Jason Kelce, who's a god in Philadelphia, might actually be rooting for his brother in the Super Bowl. Blood is thicker than any kind of association that you have with a team. Any. Of course Jason Kelce should be rooting for his brother. Why would he be rooting for the Eagles? That make him a phony? I'm the Yankee announcer. If my son happens to be blessed enough to become a Major League Baseball player, and by that time I would have been the Yankee announcer for 50 years, right? And my son was playing for the Phillies, and the Phillies met the Yankees in the World Series. You don't think I'd be rooting for the Phillies to beat the Yankees because my son's on it? Blood is thicker than anything. I'd be shocked if Jason Kelce didn't root for his brother in the Chiefs. And for people to even question that, you don't have a dog in the fight. You don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't make sense. And it is the city of brotherly love. Don't you think they should understand? He should love his brother, which he does. Jason Kelce should be rooting for the Chiefs and his brother to get a third straight championship. Period. It should never even be a matter of discussion. How can even people bring that up that it's a matter of discussion? It's asinine. Don't you understand family obligations? And forget about obligations. Family loyalty and love? Oh my goodness. The arguments that we have now in this world because of social media where anybody and anybody could have a megaphone to the world, it's just outrageous to me. Outrageous. Superbox Bonanza 6. Each qualifier will take home an ESPN prize pack and have a chance of 1 of 10 Superbox prizes, including a Ninja Air Fryer, Solo Stove, Ray-Ban Meta Wayfarers, and more. All you have to do, be caller number 12 right now at 888-987-ESPN to select a box for the big game with a chance to win $250 in the first and third quarters, $500 at halftime, and a final score payout of $1,000. All brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey and our good friends at Sloman's Security. Let's go to Matt in New Jersey. Matt, you're next on the show. What's up, bud?
How you doing? Thanks for taking the call.
Of course.
You know, I'll be one of the ones to say that I think baseball really does need a salary cap. I think there's two reasons or two major obstacles that are really keeping it from getting done. One is the owners don't want to agree to a salary floor. They don't want to agree to like a 50-50 split like the NBA and the NHL and the NFL have. And then more importantly, the players, especially the ones who are making the big money contracts like Soto, like Ohtani, they'll never agree to the escrow taking 25% of their contract and having to pay owners back, especially when these owners find ways to lose money every season, like you just said with Cohen.
Well, here's the deal, though, Matt. The big problem is that the players don't trust the owners to be truthful about their income and their revenue. So if you're going to have a 50-50 split, you have to have total trust in the owners to actually have the accounting out there to tell you exactly what they're making. I don't think they trust them.
And I was just listening to Corey Snyder talking about this with the Devils not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's a problem in hockey that they don't trust the owners. They're never going to trust the owners anywhere. And the owners are going to have accountants and they're going to have ways to hide revenue. Every other sport is doing it to hide revenue. And you know, it's going to just be exacerbated in baseball, especially with, you know, these huge numbers contracts that we don't see in other sports.
Well, you know what's interesting, though, Matt, and I think that this is something that baseball probably has on its side this time, the owners, is that the argument used to be nobody's making the money of the top players in baseball, nobody in any sport. Well, take a look at what the salary cap sports have. So the highest paid player in baseball now is Juan Soto, right? You have middling NBA players making $50 million a year. Soto's not going to make $50 million a year until 5 years into this deal. Quarterbacks now are making much more money than anybody else. Much more money than anybody else in baseball. Dak Prescott makes more money than anybody in baseball. Dak Prescott. So that can't be the argument anymore, that a free market only allows people to get paid what they want. LeBron James making over $60 million a year. Nobody in baseball makes $60 million a year. So that argument is out the window because you can make a lot of money. And other than hockey, because they don't have revenues of the NBA and the NFL, no hockey player makes as much money as a star baseball player, not even close. But in the NBA, they've surpassed them. The NFL, they've surpassed them. Let's go to Phil in Tom's River. Phil.
Hey, what's going on, Michael? How are you?
Good. How you doing, Phil?
Great. I'm great. I wanted to make a point on that Chiefs point you made yesterday, started yesterday, I made today. I'm a Ravens fan. So anytime my team is in the playoffs, I want everybody else to lose. Like any real football fan, I want my team to win the Super Bowl.
Of course.
When the Ravens, which usually happens every year, lose, at that point, what am I rooting for? I like the game of football. What we're having now, like you said yesterday, is greatness. Anybody who's a real football fan and doesn't want the Chiefs to win if their team is out, I don't know if they're a real football fan. To see a team three-peat, which has never been seen before, right? My grandfather never saw that.
Right.
I'm going to be able to see that. What I don't like, I don't not like Patrick. Patrick Mahomes is great. Travis Kelce, great. They are great on the field. The ads, you're right. Okay, I could use a little less of that. I don't like my team out. I don't like any team that's winning when my team is losing. I'm a Ravens fan, so I hate the Steelers, Browns, and Bengals. Anybody else, I don't dislike more than those guys. I think a lot of people hate the Chiefs because their team is not winning. When the Chiefs are getting continuous success and our personal teams are losing, that's what they don't like.
Well, that's well thought out, and I think well said, too. I think it comes down to jealousy. It's as simple as that. It comes down to jealousy. Your team's not as good as the Chiefs. Your quarterback's not as good as Patrick Mahomes. And we're gonna have to deal with Patrick Mahomes for another 10 years. He's not even 30 yet. So get used to it. I don't want to see Patrick Mahomes anymore. Oh, okay, then don't watch the NFL for 10 more years. Silliness. Appreciate greatness. Embrace it. Speaking of greatness, Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg coming up in about 5 minutes. It's going to be great. It always is. They'll be on from 3 to 6:30. At that time, the Ranger pregame show. So they've got a lot to do, a lot to talk about. The three of them, it's an enjoyable, entertaining, outstanding show. I want you to listen to it. It's coming up next. And that, you know where it is, right? Now, of course you do. And in the words of Billy Joel, life is a series of hellos and goodbyes. I'm afraid it's time for goodbye again. See everybody. Talk to you tomorrow at 1 right here on 880 ESPN.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K. weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN.
Suck it up and like it.
The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.